tiny lights, and I'm to click when I see one. The ones I miss measure my vision loss.
All those numbers there that you see that are zeros are blind spots. He doesn't see those areas.
You see, I have glaucoma, and I've been clicking for almost 20 years. You can see how the disease is robbing me of my sight. The prospect of going blind terrifies me, and my way of dealing with fear and terror is to confront it. Glaucoma is called the thief in the night because people don't even realize that they have it, and then one day they wake up and they don't see. Most people don't know how they see, how the eye works, and what can go wrong. I didn't before I got glaucoma. Glaucoma is a disease of the optic nerve. That's a cable of nerve fibers that takes the data my eye senses and sends it back to my brain to be interpreted as sight. The optic nerve works so well, in fact, that half the fibers can be damaged before you ever notice any sight loss. As those nerve fibers start to die, your field of vision starts to look like a window with the panes being shot out. As your sight loss progresses, you might unwittingly adjust your gaze to make up for the loss until it is all gone. They don't know exactly what causes glaucoma, but pressure built up within the eye can destroy the optic nerve. Controlling that intraocular pressure is so far the only treatment. And then you wait 5 minutes for this one. For most people, it's just drops in the eye and you're fine. And that if that doesn't work, then you can have the operations that I've had. They call it a bleb. You see, and underneath this blister, there's basically a hole cut into the eye, and this acts as a valve, keeping the pressure normal. And then on this side, I had the same operation, but you can see the bleb is sort of flat. When I was first diagnosed, I didn't take it seriously. Losing my vision didn't seem real. But now the losses are making a difference.
What do you had lunch?
I just had a little cereal. Jim, my partner, is a tall, gray-haired man, and one day in the airport, we were there together, and he could have been any of the tall, gray-haired men. They all looked alike to me.
As he walks down the street, sometimes he bumps into people because he hasn't seen them. We used to ride a lot on our bicycles. Now he's hesitant because sometimes he misses potholes, so that's changed his level of physical activity.
We'll do the right eye first, okay?
I was fortunate to be diagnosed and treated early. For the past 20 years, I've been going to the New York Eye and Ear Infirmary to see Dr. Robert Rich.
My gut feeling says, wait a little while.
Bob has literally written the book on glaucoma.
And
young doctors come from all over the world to learn at his side.
Why don't you go over the whole chart and put together everything that's been done? Because he's been coming here for 25 years.
Bob's been as aggressive as my disease, getting me access to the latest drugs and surgical treatments. Some say he's been a miracle worker in preserving as much of my sight as he has.
Your pressures are really good, and your visual field loss is pretty under control. I'm happy.
You're happy. I feel like
You'll be happy too.
I feel like I'm going blind.
You have problems, okay? But for 16 years with bad glaucoma, you're doing okay. Don't need surgery yet. Everything is stable. I don't want to rock the boat. You can't reverse it once it's done.
We are doing everything we can to save my remaining vision, but still, it's an emotional roller coaster, knowing how relentless glaucoma can be. I'm monitored regularly. I volunteer for research studies, and I participate in clinical trials. But still, I worry constantly about the future. What will it be like if I can't read the newspaper, drive a car, see a sunset, or the faces of the people I love?
Don't even think about that. Don't worry about that. What are you doing?
Like many ophthalmologists, Bob insists on looking at the positive, and he avoids talking about further vision loss. But with the sight I've been losing, I have to be prepared. So I started talking to people who've lost their sight. I stopped them on the street and hear what happened to them. How did you lose your vision?
In a car accident.
accidents, and diseases like retinitis pigmentosa, diabetic retinopathy, age-related macular degeneration. They were so generous with their stories, and the stories so fascinating, that I decided to make this film. I've been making films on health for years, but this is the first time the health issue is my own.
Come on. Got these from the framer.
Oh, great, thank you.
These
How do they look?
roll-ons work.
Since I still have my central vision, I can appreciate detail, but there are other losses. The other day I was walking up the street and was startled to find myself nose to nose with a man I had never seen in front of me. It really unnerved me. To find out what was going on, a friend suggested I see a low vision therapist, a term I had never heard of. Jim and I went to the New York branch of the Lighthouse International, one of the many institutions helping people cope with vision loss. We met with Dr. Bruce Rosenthal, an optometrist and low vision therapist. How are you? This is my partner, Jim Cottrell.
How do you do, Jim? Nice to meet you.
Dr. Rosenthal can help me evaluate how and what I actually see.
My objective at this point is to find out, does it affect your mobility? Does it affect your driving?
You stumbled on a crack in the street, which was
That's a
wasn't
crack.
very large.
That's just a crack in the street. I mean, I stumble. That's not about my vision. I don't think.
Yes, it is. It really is, because you don't have good contrast, so you may not actually see a pothole on the street. Take a look at me.
Yeah.
And look right at my face and see if you could notice if any part of me is missing.
When I first looked at Dr. Rosenthal, everything looked normal. But when I closed my left eye and fixed my gaze at the center of his face, the picture changed drastically. Parts of his body had disappeared, from his neck down to his hips. Move your, say, your right hand. Yes, I don't see your right hand, really.
And if you cover the other eye, you see the right hand.
But I don't see your left arm at all. Finally, I understood where the holes in my vision were, and it left Jim and me pretty upset. I sobbed for a day, realizing just how much vision was gone. But how could I have never noticed such a huge loss?
You may subconsciously be scanning back and forth in an area where you actually have no visual field present.
Dr. Rosenthal explained that how we see is much more subjective than most of us realize. When I look at an object, light reflects off that object and passes through the lens in the front of the eye. The lens then focuses that light signal onto the retina and its photoreceptive nerve cells in the back of the eye. Then the retina relays the information through the optic nerve.
And you might not be knowing you're being tasked to come to grips with it, because you don't realize you don't see it until you didn't see it. You get it? Yeah, that's something to remember. Another thing that cautious me a bit is that we tend to not want to lose our independence. Who does? Sighted, blind, doesn't matter. We don't want to lose our independence. Ask any teenager. We don't want to lose our independence. So when we're forced to come to that realization that we've lost some, we want to keep as much as we can. It doesn't feel so good. So the service dogs, and service dogs of all kinds, not just guide dogs, they allow us to keep a little bit of that independence and a little bit of that dignity. And it's just a really, I think it's a wonderful thing that they've created so that we can still move about and do things the way we do. Another thing that did catch my ear this particular time, that probably didn't catch it every time, is that the guy's still driving. Did y'all see that? I said to myself, Self, we don't want to be on the road while he's on the road. And it's partially because we're not ready to give that independence up. The inability to drive is like a very big emotional thing for people, suddenly not being able to get to where they want to go when they want to go. You have to wait for somebody else. He was also riding a bike, and did you see where the bike showed up? I mean, the car showed up, and he didn't see it? It just wasn't there. It literally was not there until either the man that walked up He was not there. That was that bewitched moment. Just pop right there. So just realize that this is what you're seeing, what you're dealing with when you have a person with a visual impairment. You're possibly dealing with this type of thing when you have them come into your building, and then to claim that their animal that helps them make it through is a pet and isn't real is really hurtful. And so you just need to know that. Okay, so let's talk about when you meet a person who's blind. And this is where you have any question you want, I'm ready for it. This is like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Any question you have, you're never going to get the opportunity to walk up to a person who's blind and say, hey, by the way, how do you guys deal about blah, blah, blah? Okay, this is your chance. And you've got something like 30 minutes left to do it in, so you knock them out while you get the chance. Okay, you treat a person who's blind the way you would anybody else, okay? We just do the same things you guys do, but we just do them with different techniques. Let's use this as an example. How do I brush my teeth? You know, as I bet you now you're saying, you know, that's a good question, because I know that's what you're thinking right now. So here you go. The law says that the toothbrush and the toothpaste must at some point commune within your mouth. So, keeping that in mind, it doesn't matter whether we take the toothpaste and manage to struggle to stick it on the toothbrush and then bring it to our mouths, as long as they all get together and visit. So, I take a little bit of toothpaste, stick it in my mouth, and I take my toothbrush and I brush up a storm. And look, I got pearly whites. Okay? So, we do the same things y'all do, we just do them with different techniques so that it's doable. Here's another one. You speak to a person who's blind or visually impaired in a normal tone of voice. A lot of times, because we're so anxious to help, we want to be understood. So we'll come up to the person and offer our help. Do you want me to take you to the mastodon? We over-articulate, we get louder, and that's not even because we're trying to be rude, we're trying to help, but we sort of think we end up over-helping. So just to keep the dignity together, go ahead and use your normal tone of voice, because lack of vision doesn't mean lack of intelligence or lack of hearing, unless there is actually a lack of hearing going with it. Okay? So you could just say, hey, can I take you over to, and then you would use sighted guide. Everybody say sighted guide.